Welcome back to the Bear Down Buzz podcast. I'm Isaac, along with my co-hosts Eli and Joe, and today we're gonna kick off our second episode.
Topic number 1, our thoughts on Bears versus Buffalo.
I'll kick things off. It was the first time we saw Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, and all the new Bears players in action against the Bills. It was a dominant performance, and it just, I was expecting to see, a good performance overall. I wasn't expecting to see the absolutely like crazy no look pass kind of thing, the fake pumping to get the defender off for a second, throwing to Cole Kmet for, really nice completion. But overall, it just makes me super excited for the upcoming season because there's just the sky's the limit with this team. And obviously Caleb's a rookie, so he's gonna have his mistakes and his struggles, but it was a really nice performance put together by a team that hasn't been playing together for that long. And yeah, I'll ask Joe, what were your thoughts on the Bears versus Bills game?
I was very surprised on how they played. I wasn't expecting them to dominate the way they did. I thought that Josh Allen would definitely get the better of the defense for the couple of drives he played, especially because our starting defense was, not healthy all the way. It still isn't healthy all the way. Talk about that more later. But it was surprising. But four phases of the ball played very well. All three phases of the team played very well. The offense with Caleb Williams in the first quarter, it looked amazing. Caleb looked like Patrick Mahomes, like if we're being honest. You don't want to compare him to the best in the game, but like he was making some of Mahomes level throws, especially with that underhand pass to DeAndre Swift on the screen. That probably could have went for a touchdown, but Swift tripped. And he even admits it before or after the game. The throw that he tried to make to Rome Odunze in the corner of the end zone that ended up going out of bounds was next level. I mean, no one was open. Tried to throw someone open. It almost worked. And then some of the other players that played very well that weren't starters, Austin Booker looked very good again. He got 2.5 sacks. It was against backups, but you can only do so much when you have to beat who you're up against, and been beating who's been up against. It'll be interesting to see if he could do anything against starters or even second string players because we went mostly against third stringers against the Bills. And then Daniel Hardy also had 2.5 sacks, which was uh something to keep an eye on. The Bears need pass rush, besides Montez Sweat. So if Hooker and Hardy can both be someone to produce them, then someone like Dominic Robinson might end up getting cut for final roster cuts. And that's that's my thoughts.
What really stood out to me, we always talk about Caleb Williams, so I'll just start there, is that we just saw kind of a mixed bag with him, just for the simple fact of we saw what we needed to see from Caleb in the fact that he stayed in the pocket. When the pocket collapsed, he knew where to go with football and how to process being hurried like that. Something that a lot of people talked about was when the pocket collapsed and he rolled out to his right on that throw to commit, the ball security, that he had the awareness to kind of put that ball away from the defender. I thought that was something that you don't really see a lot in the NFL. And for a rookie to be able to have that awareness, I thought was really cool. But again, he stayed in the pocket when he needed to. He was on time. He had anticipation, knew the route trees of where his receivers were going. So it just feels like Caleb Williams is super ahead of schedule for where typically a rookie would be. Another thing I thought that a lot of people I don't think have been talking about is that leading up to Bears versus Buffalo, all the concern was on the offensive line. And during that game, you kind of saw the continuity that we've kind of been working towards for this offensive line. And it seems like all the spots where we were having trouble at right guard and at center, we didn't really see a lot of struggles in that game. And you also saw Darnell Wright have a pretty good game from what we had kind of talked about. He had some struggles through training camp. But really, everything that you wanted to see from the offense, you kind of saw. Of course, like Joe had mentioned, the throw. Well, this was a different throw to Rome Odunze, probably the only quote-unquote bad throw of the day for Caleb Williams when he was trying to get to Rome. It was a bit of a dangerous pass, and it got broke up, obviously. But that was really the only knock on Caleb that we saw in that entire game, or the snaps that we saw from Caleb. But everything that we wanted to see from Caleb, everybody it got everybody excited, and we saw everything that he's capable of, his skill set, out of the pocket, staying in the pocket, everything that we wanted to see from Caleb, we got to see.
I'll
Yeah.
add one more thing. There was also one other bad play from Caleb, and it's on Caleb because he rolled out of the pocket. It was the 2nd and 7 play where they got caught for holding on the first drive when Darnell Wright basically tackled the defender down. Caleb doesn't roll out there. It probably doesn't get called for holding because the referee wouldn't have happened. Darnell Wright would have still had a guy, but since Caleb rolled out, Darnell Wright needed to keep him away from him, and it ended up being holding.
Yep.
Now, as they get more play time together, that is less likely to happen, but still, that was not a great play.
Yeah. And I like that, Eli, you touched on the offensive line aspect because that was, I mean, it's been a big concern, and obviously it looks way better, during the game. And I do want to highlight one of my favorite plays that Caleb Williams had against the Bills. It was that when he threw that ball to DJ Moore for that first down, it was like a 13, 12-yard pass. It was, oh my gosh, it was so nice to watch because Justin Fields, as much as I loved him, he had a hard time looking at all the reads. He's just like would stare down his receiver. But Caleb Williams from I don't know why we had Webster playing with the first team, first of all. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but he was
Yeah.
on like it was like, oh, okay. But he was looking at him, he was running to go. He was covered, and I think it was either Rome or Keenan was next to Webster, and they were running an out route, and he was covered. So Caleb looks to his left side, and he notices that, so basically there was a safety on DJ Moore and a cornerback, right? They were kind of both on him. The safety was kind of hovering, and the cornerback was dropping back into coverage, guarding Moore. And Caleb saw that, and he intentionally looked at Herbert, who was coming out and being available for a pass, and he made the cornerback come up and guard Herbert so that Moore would have just enough room for Caleb to throw it in. And that was just it was such a good play. And
Yeah,
I
that third,
I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to see more.
3rd and 13, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
It was a great play. If you watch the film breakdowns, it was basically, I think the route was like a corner comeback curl route
Mhm.
where DJ just broke back for the ball. So it was nice. Any way you look at it, it was a very great play. You're right. Justin Fields can't make that throw, which sucks to say, but like he just doesn't zip it in there like that. And it was a missile. That's all you can say about that throw. It was a missile to DJ Moore, and it was nice to see. We're gonna see a lot more of that, hopefully this year.
Yeah, the way Caleb is just able to diagnose a defense like that. And then at the press conference afterward, he literally told you everything that he saw, and it was easy for him, like second nature. So it's just so encouraging to have a quarterback in Chicago like that.
Yeah, that was crazy. I don't know if you guys saw, but there's a Bears Twitter account. His name is I'm Bearing Down, and he literally posted a video of like when Caleb was saying that play down, he was like circling everything as like it was going on. It's crazy. It was, yeah, and for a like first preseason game for a rookie, that's just unheard of, honestly.
Topic number 2, episode 2 of Bears Hard Knocks.
And then moving on to our second topic of the day, the second episode of Bears Hard Knocks. What were your guys' thoughts on it? Maybe favorite moment?
Yeah, I would just say, in my opinion, I think I liked the first episode better than the second. Not that the second episode was bad by any means, but it seemed like the second one was a lot more focused on the personalities of the players, which is completely fine. I'm personally more into the football side of things, but I think it was just cool to kind of see DJ's relationship with his family and how they have embraced the city of Chicago.
What about you,
Yeah, I
Jeff?
would.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with that. The one thing I want to mention, and we don't have to talk about this too much, was how HBO really messed up the release of the episode. On Max, it took them an hour and 15 minutes to get it out. Um, I'm lucky that I have HBO proper like cable TV. So 15 minutes into the episode, I turned it on the TV, and then when it came out on Max, I watched the first 15 minutes because I wanted to see what I missed. But a couple of my favorite moments. One, like I was talking about when we were talking about the Bills game, I liked when Caleb and Rome talked in the sideline after that end zone throw where he just kind of overshot him, but it was him or nobody to catch the ball. Caleb was telling Rome where he wanted him to be. For a rookie in his first ever snaps in the NFL, that's very advanced. That's like it's something that's what Rodgers does with his receivers, like Garrett Wilson. Mahomes does that with his receivers, and for Williams to be doing that right now, that's crazy. I liked a lot of PJ Moore and Keenan Allen stuff. I know Keenan Allen doesn't get a lot of shine with his family, but the little moment that you saw with him and his family was nice. PJ Moore's daughter's funny. Uh,
Mhm.
I did like the ice cream museum thing too. I That's fun. Yeah, those are what a couple of my favorite moments.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Joe, and what you were saying, and then Eli with the fact that the first episode was probably a little bit more interesting just because it was more on the football aspect. For this episode, I had two favorite moments. My first one was with Rome when he was talking to the two high school kids about basically emulating Kobe Bryant's work ethic. If you don't take 1,000 shots in practice, it's basically like second nature to add the more you practice, the better you'll be in the game. And Rome was talking about, if I don't go out on the field making these catches unless I do 1,000 catches on the jug machine, stuff like that. So that was really nice to see that someone as young as Rome isn't just going into the NFL with just pure, like basing his game on pure athleticism. It's not just that, it's also putting in the hard work and the dedication to his craft. And I feel like sometimes a lot of these rookies that end up being big bust, it's because they're only relying on their athleticism. It's not really just the hard work that they're putting in. And I know Rome's going to be really good for us for a very long time. It's he's such a great athlete and even better person, so that's awesome to see. And then my second favorite moment was Keenan Allen when he was in the press conference and he was saying like, talking about Jalen Johnson. He was, yeah, this guy hasn't let me got I haven't gotten a catch with against him. Oh, but I'll get him tomorrow. And then they show him, next day getting a catch on him and stuff. That's just fun because it's usually like we either have one really elite cornerback or one, really good wide receiver, but to have, one of the best cornerbacks in the game and one, yeah, Can's older, I get that, but he's still one of the most elite route runners that the NFL has. So to see him, iron sharpening iron is really nice to see.
I think the fact Hard Knocks does such a great job at highlighting players on certain teams. And for Jalen, he seems like a guy. Obviously, rookie corners often struggle, but it seemed like year two and on for him, he has shown that he is a legitimate lockdown corner. For Hard Knocks to kind of give Jalen Johnson the recognition that Bears fans have known for the last few or so years that he is a legitimate lockdown corner. It's just great to see him finally get the recognition and for him getting paid and for him to still have this drive and this work ethic to prove that he is at the top of his position or near the top is just really great for this Bears team to have.
Yeah, I agree with that. Going off both of what you guys said about the Keenan Allen Johnson thing, Hard Knocks. So what they did show a catch in Hard Knocks after after Keenan said that, but it wasn't against Jalen Johnson. Although he did end up making a catch that next practice against Jalen Johnson, it just wasn't shown for some reason. They cut it out. I don't know why, but I do know that he made a catch by reading reports and stuff from training camp. It's nice to see the Jalen getting the recognition, just like other players in the NFL didn't even give him the recognition that he deserves, which is insane.
Yeah, like to not be on the top 100 list, as a second team All Pro, Pro Bowler, even not like Aaron Rodgers making the list and his highlight reels, him running out with the American flag is pretty crazy, but it is what it is. It's probably adding motivation for Jalen, especially since, he's been disrespected for too long, I feel like.
No,
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you. It's about time that people are starting to realize the kind of player he is.
Topic number 3. Bayless Jones' new position audition.
I was gonna transition into the game by asking you guys what you guys think of Velus Jones at running back.
When I was watching Hard Knocks, I really liked Ian Wheeler when they were showing that segment on him and like the running backs coach being really hard on him and stuff. And with Vilas, I think he would be better as a running back for us at this point, especially with all the wide receivers we have on the team. He would probably be like the fifth wide receiver at best. He does have like the burst and the build. He's a a stronger guy, and I think he'll be fine, but it's hard to find a way to like incorporate him in the game as a pure running back when we have Swift and Roshan and Khalil Herbert. It seems like he'll primarily be like a jet sweep kind of thing. But what do you guys think?
For me, I think like I completely agree with you. Like he has all the physical attributes to be a running back. It's just a matter of him developing the vision of playing running back because when you kind of saw in that game, he wasn't hitting the holes like a typical running back should, and he's kind of uncertain and he would bounce after first contact. He wouldn't go through contact and make it happen, but those are this he's never played the position, so it's one of those things to where if that's where they want him to be, it's going to take some time. But no, I completely agree. If they're willing to put in the time that it takes for him to switch positions and maybe add a little bit of weight, I think he could do it.
I I agree with everything you guys said. I think he looked pretty good. I mean, he tripped a couple times, like over Pace's feet, which isn't good, but as you get more reps, that will not happen. Now, if he does stand the team as a running back, he's gonna get like maybe 5, 6 carries a game, and it'll be just so he could have a roster spot. Like he'll have 5, 6 runs a game, then maybe go out and as a receiver for a couple of routes. But it's mostly make sure he's on the roster for kick returning, and you don't want to just keep someone to be a kick returner. You want them to have some additional value. So that's what the Bears are trying to do with Bayless. I Like I said, I think he makes the team as a running back. If that's like the way they're going to designate him, but he's going to be just a gadget guy.
Yeah, I think it'll be similar to what we saw from Cordero Patterson a few years ago. That the guy was a running back, but at the same time, he was primarily there for the kick returning duties. Obviously, Cordero Patterson is much better of a kick returner than Bayless has been, but it's kind of
And
a similar situation.
he also turned into a better running back.
True, very
Like
true.
he was a really good running back when he was in Atlanta.
Yeah, maybe we'll see that with Vilas, but who knows? I think with Patterson, he had more of an opportunity. There wasn't as much competition in Atlanta. And with Vilas, he has to compete with Swift and Herbert and Roshan. So I mean I'm rooting for the guy. I liked Vilas coming out of college, and it hasn't been what we've expected it to be, but hopefully he could turn things around. And I'm just glad that he's at least open to switching to running back because there's some players that would probably be like, why would you make me switch to running back? I've been a wide receiver my whole life and stuff like that. So as it's good for him for having that mindset of, if I can try to any way I could help the team, I'll do it.
Topic number 4. A preview of Bears Bengals at Soldier Field.
Since we do know that the starters are not playing and the Bears starters are playing, it'll be nice to see more of a putting points on the board besides field goals. I would like to see some touchdowns from Caleb or Swift or whoever it is with the first team. And then just the same production as before with the second team. If Austin Booker can continue to show that he's a dominant pass rusher and stuff like that, it'll be awesome. And just continuing working hard and getting more continuity on both sides of the ball. Eli, what do you think?
So what I really want to see from this next preseason game, we kind of saw the relationship getting there, and it felt like the Bears offense wanted this to happen. But I really want to see more of these shots to Rome Odunze to develop that chemistry further between Caleb and Rome because I think it can be special, and I think you both would agree that it can be. But I also just want to see more of that deep passing attack for the Bears in this game because obviously, like we said, starters aren't playing for the Bengals. So this is an even better opportunity for Caleb to get more confident in this offense. So while you can't exactly have a week 1 offense out there in a preseason game, I do want to see them kind of not implement the vanilla offense that we kind of saw against Buffalo. I just want them to make these reps count because we're closing in on week 1 and there's only so many more preseason games that the Bears are going to play their starters. So I think this is really a really good opportunity for Caleb to really get comfortable with these live reps against a pretty good defense. So I think even their depth is a good opportunity for Caleb to get these live reps.
I agree with that. I think the thing I'm most intrigued by is we know our offensive starters are going to play, but are they going to play the defensive starters? Because like, is it worth playing your defense starters against backups when you know how good your defense starters are? You're doing it with Caleb because he needs the reps, but the defense starters don't really need the reps. And a lot of our defense has been dealing with injuries, so like, you just play the second string while the Bengals are playing the second string offense. What do you do there? But yeah, I agree with all you guys, with both you guys' points on the offense. Like it'll be interesting to see how well they should do very well against a second string defense, even if the Bengals def is good and they do have a good defensive coordinator. But like, yeah, we should easily be able to score a couple touchdowns. Now, we don't know exactly how long the Stars are going to be playing. Probably about the same length they played last week because they played 18 plays last week. Flu said they want to get Caleb between 40 and 55 reps in the preseason. So if they play him 18 this week, that's 36. Play him 18 next week, that's 54. Did I do that math right?
I think that's right.
So something around that. Yeah, I mean they could just do that. I mean, we don't know what they're gonna do, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the offense does. And Austin said I want to see how Austin Booker does against. I hope he plays with the twos instead of the threes, just to see if he could get more pressure on people higher on the depth chart. And then also the same thing with Daniel Hardy, because like we need people to help on the other side of pass rushing, and we know that that's not going to be Dominic Robinson. This is one thing we forgot to mention in the Bills game. He did have one good play. It was a run stop, but he hasn't really shown anything else in the pass rushing game. So he might not make the team. It might be Hardy and I mean Booker's making the team, so it might be Hardy instead of Dominic Robinson. That's another player that they might not want to give up on is Dominic Robinson. I don't know. We'll have to see. But Dominic will definitely get some snaps with the twos.
Final topic. Bears miss out on Matthew Judon.
Speaking of pass rushers, Matthew Judon was traded to the Falcons for a third-round pick, and that Chicago was one of the teams that were interested. And we're willing to, trade their third-round pick. Would you guys have liked if the Bears ended up trading a third-round pick for Matthew Judon, or do you think that we kind of dodge a bullet by, him eventually going to the Falcons instead of the Bears?
In my opinion, I love the player that Matthew Judon is, but he also is 32 years old, wanting an extension, and it feels like Poles is still out there hunting for a defensive end. So I don't think the market is completely dried up yet for the Bears in that department, but I'm okay with them having missed out. If it were to have happened, I wouldn't have minded. The only thing is that we would really be banking a lot of money into our defensive ends. And if they're confident enough that this team is capable of getting to where we want to be, then sure, pull the trigger. But at the same time, I think we can hold out for a player that is more cap friendly and more willing to fit with what this Bears roster is at the moment.
I agree with everything you said, Eli. I think the main thing that kept the Bears from pulling the trigger with the contract on Judon is he only played 4 games last year. So like, do you really want to spend money on a player that's yeah, he's good, but he's 32 and he only played 4 games last year. You don't know what you're gonna get this year, uh, and going forward. Yeah, I would have liked Judon, but we did get him. Uh, another edge rusher that's gone today off the free agent market is Carl Lawson. So I think that just leaves like Yannick Ngakoue and maybe one other guy that is still available. But I don't really want. I mean, Yannick wouldn't be the worst option, but I don't really want him back. I mean, he played well once he got sweat, but before that, wasn't really playing well. I guess you can say that's because people keyed in on him. He was the only guy that was a pass rusher. I don't know. I don't really want Yannick back.
Yeah, it's interesting because with Judon, I like that Poles was, going for trading for him and everything, but I think a third round would have been too high, especially because we would have also having to give him a big contract. I think that we're fine. I don't think we need another defensive end just because at this point it would have to probably be a trade and it would probably be a significant amount of money given to this defensive end. I just think that we need to go through the season, let some of our younger players get those meaningful snaps with Sweat. And if worse comes to worse, if defensive end is still a big issue, we always have the, mid-season trade deadline thing that we can look for someone like we did with Sweat last year, or just, tough it out, go to free agency in 2025. There's gonna be some good options. There's probably going to be a player, edge rusher that's going to be demanding a trade. It's just every year it's going to be someone like that. So, we'll see. Maybe even someone, I mean, I know this is probably like not a possibility, but I see a lot of Bears fans on Twitter always asking for Micah Parsons, especially because the Cowboys, they don't know what they're doing right now. They're saying, oh, we don't need to give CeeDee Lamb a contract or anything like that. And it's probably going to be the same thing with Micah next year. So we'll see.
The only other thing about next year is the pass rushing class in the draft is really good. So there's always the possibility that we draft somebody and don't sign somebody in free agency, which, as long as they're top end talent, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. It would be preferred if we can get someone in the draft. And I know there's someone from Penn State that a lot of people are saying it. He kind of reminds them of Michael Parsons. So we'll see. And there's a bunch of good ones. Well, and it's not like we're gonna have a bunch of needs in the draft, and we could just get the best player available. So we'll see.
Yeah, I like that you brought up developing our young players because looking at the defensive end group right now, it's in a decent spot. And if Booker ends up being who we think he can be, then we're going to be in a great spot. And you saw the same thing happen with our secondary to where it was a young Jalen Johnson and a bunch of free agents that were kind of mixed in, but we ended up drafting depth, drafting another starter in Kyler Gordon, drafting another starter in Tyreek Stevenson. So letting those guys, those young guys develop into key starters for our team, I think you're kind of seeing what Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus are trying to build here. So I think it's a great idea to do that same thing with the defensive end group.
Yeah. Was there anything else you guys wanted to add today?
Nothing really comes to mind for me.
Awesome. That was the end of our second episode. Thank you guys so much for listening and tune in for next time.